Straw Hut Media.
Hello, On the Rockers. We're back, and he's back. Thank you for being a friend. We have a friend of On the Rocks, screenwriter and director Stan Zimmerman here to give us a scoop on his debut memoir and stories from the Golden Girls, Gilmore Girls, and Roseanne. With me, your sassy host with the sassy most. Raise a glass, let the drinks begin. It's On the Rocks.
A banquet, and most poor suckers are starving to death.
I'd like to propose a toast.
This is On the Rocks with Alexander, where I drink with your favorite celebrities as we talk about fashion, entertainment, pop culture, reality TV, and, well, that's about it. So pop a cork, lean back, and raise a glass to On the Rocks.
Fasten your seatbelt. It's going to be a bumpy night.
Girl, we've already been drinking, so you better fasten those seatbelts, buttons and bows and pantyhose. On the Rocks podcast, the place where we're too glam to give a damn. Today's libations are brought to you by courtesy of House of Love Cocktails, featured around the nation, in your home, at the clubs, and on RuPaul's Drag Race. Get your case of totally natural cocktails, ranging from mocktails and 4% alcohol all the way to 12%. I have the 12%, obviously. Everybody say love. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at On the Rocks on Air, and on Facebook, On the Rocks Radio Show. Send me an email, book me for a pride, wedding, funeral, quinceañera, Brits. I don't care. I'll show up. Info at ontherocksradioshow.com. Also, send us your comments, your guest requests, and guest questions. The show's presented by Straw Hut Media. You can watch and or listen to our now over 352 episodes at ontherocksradioshow.com for free. You can watch us on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, on the Outlet.tv app, Facebook Watch, streaming with Pride on SVTV, and on Channel 31 on the East Coast. Hello, East Coast. We proudly tape at UBN Go Studios, your one-place stop for podcasting services. All right, let's get the show on the road. Returning to On the Rocks, Stan Zimmerman. Whenever you say this name, you have to say it like that. Stan Zimmerman, a screenwriter, producer, director, who's written on shows like The Golden Girls, Gilmore Girls, Roseanne, The Brady Bunch movies, the TV version of Annie, and the list goes on and on. He's a playwright whose works are being produced around the nation, including his play, Right Before I Go, that has had A-listers from Hollywood all take part. He's also the creator and director of an all-Latinx version of The Diary of Anne Frank that continues to be performed. Too much controversy, by the way. He has appeared on just about every major media platform with his take on entertainment hot topics, and he is hot off the press tour for his debut memoir, The Girls, From Golden to Gilmore. He continues to direct theater across the nation, including High Maintenance, now playing in Southern California at the Road Theater. And this last holiday season, his film, Ladies of the 80s, A Diva Christmas, premiered on Lifetime with a bevy of your favorite ladies from the 80s. And he is no stranger to On the Rocks, but this time we are talking all about it. Nothing's going to be left behind. Please welcome my friend, Mr. Stan Zimmerman.
Thank you for having me back.
Yeah, of course.
Nice to see you. Toast to that.
Toast to that.
Okay.
House of Love Cocktails. Okay. Wink, wink.
There we go. Ding.
So you have the distinction of being on the Rocks more than any other person in our history.
400 of the 500 shows, right? I wish. I had to force myself on the show. Now you can't get rid of me.
Well, no, it's funny because you were one of our very earliest guests.
Yes.
And you were like, what is...
Who is that? What?
Well, first it was like, what's a podcast? Because it was
long time ago.
And
it was
then,
at Sunset Gower where we shot Golden Girls.
There you go. It's full circle.
But coming back there, I don't think I had been back in years. And it was just the history you feel in those walls of the building.
Yeah.
Cool.
But you've been a guest here. You brought so many celebrities to us.
Yes, I have.
And from that, we've grown our friendship. We do our show, An Evening on the Lanai.
Sold out in Palm Springs. We did North Carolina. We're going to do Ojai in August.
There you go.
I want to do
dates.
more if you would just...
Well, if
you're so busy.
You just came off of this mega media tour.
I'm
you
still
were
on it. Yeah.
Andy Cohen's Watch What Happens Live.
You've
was
been
the
on
bartender.
Every
News.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dan
every
Savage.
News. Yes.
Sexy Dan Savage.
Yeah,
he is really.
And talk about a good interviewer. Like, he is good. I mean, I taught him everything he knows.
Yes, but I've been a fan of his for years. When I first moved to LA,
He's done so much.
He was just starting out with his column in The Reader, and we had never heard anybody talk about sex in such a smart, casual way. And I was still so pent up and scared and all that stuff. Not that I'm not now, but
you're making up for lost time from what I heard.
Hey, slow down, buddy. So
we're gonna get to that, by the way.
He contacted me and just all of a sudden DM'd me and was like, "Would you be on my little stupid podcast?" And I'm like, "That's Stan Savage."
That's huge.
Yeah, that was really happy.
But that's a boon, and that's just talking about like everything that you're talking in the book. And so, what I wanted to say is, when you were first on years and years ago, the focus was on you. You've gone through so much and you've done so much, but you've been a guest co-host, so we haven't talked to you. And now the spotlight's back on you because the girls, and you have to get this. You have to get this book. I read it in one sitting. you kind of just throw all caution to the wind, and we really get to find out about you. And, I'm a good friend of yours.
Yeah, what didn't you know? What were you surprised by?
I didn't know a lot. I was surprised by how much you shared, to be honest. Because I know, in this business and because your personality, you tend to keep things close to your pocket. So let's just dive into this interview, shall we?
Okay, speaking of that pocket.
I was amazed at how deep you got with feelings and how many facts you shared. What was the inspiration to finally write it all down? And did you have any trepidation in revealing so much?
Those are two questions. Let's.
You could wrap it together. You're a writer.
Okay, there you go.
In a sitcom,
it's very fast, in and out. I started writing it because people kept asking me, how can a man write so many shows continually that were female ensemble shows? So then I started exploring and wondering, why myself? Why were we keep getting these jobs? And I really attributed it back to my grandmother, my mother, my sister. And
the trifecta, that was your foundation.
Yes, but then when you think about it, those were the Gilmore Girls, that relationship. And I didn't really realize that till I started writing it. So then what I did was I was keeping journals since NYU. So I went back because I was like, I can't write a book. I don't know anything about writing a book.
So they were chiseled on stone at that time, and you're like, let's get the stones out.
You're supposed to be nice to your guests, okay?
Honey, that was nice. I could have said cave drawings.
You could have, and you probably will later on. But so I went, that was how I began. I just pulled all the pieces.
That must have been wild to take out these journals for the whole different Stan.
But I also wrote a lot during each show, and I was shocked. Like, when did I have time to really write all my feelings about, thrilled to be on Golden Girls as it was blossoming into this huge show, but also feeling not wanted on the show at the same time, and people didn't really know that. So putting that in there, and then realizing how we grow and change, and your thoughts as a young person are very different than how I feel now. So I love the idea of juxtaposing those two, and I thought that would kind of be an interesting little peek into my life, but also for people. Yes, I drop a lot of names, but those are the names I worked with.
Yeah.
But also, how do you pick yourself up in any job after so many no's and rejections and keep going? So I'm hoping people get something out of that, or whatever job they do.
Well, we're definitely going to talk about that because I have it like right next. Well, my friend Josh has it now, and he has to finish reading it. But I've had it there because it's not, and even it's just not just for a screenwriter per se or somebody in entertainment. I use it as an inspirational kind of handbook because you do talk about picking yourself up. You do talk about, what am I doing? And do I say I'm done? Like, at what point? And so I read a few things and how you kept going. And we're going to talk about this. But it's more than just a tell-all, because it's really not a tell-all. It's, because a tell-all is just like
juicy bitchy things.
And it's not that
but
at
that's,
all.
You know me. Of course, when we've been out,
there are fun facts in it. I'm not going to lie.
I will throw some bitchy things out,
yes.
But basically, it is a Valentine to all these wonderful women that really have made me the man who I am today. ...
And Roseanne.
And Roseanne. There was a whole discussion with my publishers. I wanted it on the front cover, and Roseanne, and they're like, "Oh no, what is she going to do if she sees it?" I'm like,
she can't read.
That's the whole thing. What has happened to her?
We're going to talk about that, so I have a whole Roseanne section.
Right,
Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Slow down, buddy.
But I want to know, what was the creative process? How long did it take you? Because it's not just opening up the journals. Oh, and what I have to say in the book, you actually reprint some of the journals, which I love, because we do really get inside your mind.
Hear my voice back then, yes.
Yeah, 100%. You're like, hello.
Hi, I'm a little boy.
I was in the movie Cocktails. Did you see me in the back? You were in the movie Cocktails.
It was Risky Business, but you're close.
Oh, I thought it was Cocktails.
I think you're on topic here with...
True or false, Tom Cruise was flirting with you?
Plead the fifth. In my mind, he was, but, there you go.
Chapter 3?
Yeah. Well, where's that? Mm-hmm. He was a sweet, sweet man. Yeah, so there is a story of when I was working in casting in New York, and he came in right after Taps. And then when I moved out to L.A., I was just wanting any kind of job. And I went and there was a big mass call to be extras in Risky Business, and I did get the gig and was there. And it was on, we filmed it in Larchmont, and we had a scene together.
But you were supposed to come back the next day, right? You were requested specifically.
Yes.
They wanted you to go to that Christian Science brunch.
They wanted me to go to the house party, but they told me, but you'd have to be naked. And me and my craziness and my body shame, I couldn't do it. Mm-hmm. And I said, I couldn't do it. Isn't that like... And then in my mind, I went, Tom Cruise asked me to be naked.
Oh,
Of
yeah.
course, there you go.
That should have been the title, too.
That's my next book. He probably had nothing to do with it. But, I mean, we did talk, and then they did come up to me and ask me to come back the next day and shoot there. And then I go to see the movie, and there's no nudity by the boys. But
No, at all.
But they were all there to be with the prostitutes in the film. And it's a really good movie. And actually, Christian McLaughlin and I wrote kind of an adult sequel to Risky Business, and it was the Tom Cruise kind of character is divorced. His wife goes away for the holidays and asks him to watch the house, and he has another party.
That's fun.
I think it'd be huge, Tom.
I think
if
that's
you're
a
out
great
there,
idea.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah.
I got tons of them.
But how long did it take? And but I wanted to also say it's
7 years.
7 years. Because I can imagine it's not just the reading, like I said, and picking what you're going to pick, but it has to mentally affect you to go back in time, because you do cover good times, you cover bad times, you cover grief, which we're also going to talk about. But that has to take some time for you to be like, I need a breath.
Yes, and I was doing other things and directing a lot of plays, and you've been a huge supporter and had my cast on your show, and I thank you for that, because in LA, it's just hard to get any notice from any media in this town.
Isn't that weird? And you have great actors. You have great TV and film actors in your work.
And even people you don't know in my current play, High Maintenance, are really good actors. But unless the town learns how to support theater, I don't think we'll ever be really considered serious theater, even though we're doing really great work here. Anyway, so oddly, COVID helped me because I was stuck in the house to really focus and first get a publisher with the help of Kristen Carroll, who you know and sends your love. And really, if it wasn't her, I wouldn't have the publisher. But then, because I was stuck in the house, I found a spot in my home that I didn't use. And funny enough, it was my dining room table. You would think you would use it, but I never go in there. So I just got that
I've only been invited to your house once, so I wouldn't know. And I wasn't allowed in the dining room.
You were there.
You're like, can you take your shoes off and take out the trash
That's
on your way
not true.
out?
That's not true. People keep their shoes on. But I'm not. No one is allowed to drink dark colored alcohol. Because that would be fine. Yes, you can have
House
that.
of Love cocktails. It's clear.
Perfect. And yes, there we go.
Yeah.
RuPaul. So I found this spot and I just said, okay, I'm going to sit here at this time during the day for writers out there. It might be helpful.
I think that's so important for a different project to put yourself in a whole different mindset.
And have what you need right there. So I knew I would like, okay, I'll have a double espresso and nice and warm and have my little spot and very cozy and just be away from phones and things and, computers and just focus on writing a little bit each morning. Because I was used to writing with, and still am, writing with a partner. Yeah. So when you meet together, you are together, you have that time period where you're going to write from, 10:30 to 4, whatever. But when you're alone,
and you hold somebody else holds you
accountable. Yes, but who I did have accountable were all the Gilmore Girl fans. So right at one of the early fan festivals, I mentioned I was writing a book, and of course everyone was like, "Oh my God, I can't wait to read it." So every year they would say to me, "Where is it? Where is it? Where is it?" I'm like, "I'm sorry, it's coming. I'm working on it. I'm working on it." And then I finally last year got to have the first book release with them and share that.
And having your own space, too, I think is so important for when you need to leave that work there. So you don't take it into your bedroom. You don't take it to sleep with you. You're able to be like, okay.
Although I do sleep with my computer and I do a lot of work in bed.
You're not supposed to.
I know you're not supposed
and
to.
It's Mental Health Awareness Month, and they said that's the worst.
I do some of my best work in
the bedroom?
In the early hours on my computer.
Because you're on Grindr.
On your computer? Anyway,
they made it web-based for older generation.
Well, there I go. There's 2 hours wasted. So I do emails and stuff because in the mornings because East Coast people and stuff like that, and then I do have the time to write. But then during COVID, I just sat down and did a little chapter each day and kept moving and moving and moving. And what I tell writing students, because I have also taught a lot of sitcom writing classes, just get to the end. So it's just like, just get to the end. I had outlined where I wanted to go. No, you fill it in all along, but then, because the blank page can be really scary for any writer. So just get to the end and then you can rewrite, which I did. But, don't get stuck in trying to make each section perfect. Yeah. Just move to the end and then you'll smooth it out as you go along.
And I've also heard if you go back and rewrite what you just wrote over and over again, that's the worst thing too. It's just like move past it.
Move past, keep going. Yeah.
So I knew that you had done acting and that you were interested as a kid, but I didn't realize how much acting you had actually done. There's pictures in the book of you in Wizard of Oz. You did a lot of children's theater. At 7.5, you were accepted to this. You were the youngest person in this summer theater
program at Cranbrook Theater
yeah.
School in Michigan.
Oh my God!
Oh my God! I can't believe you put that up there for people to see.
And he's been dressed since.
That was their Christmas card.
Were you the town crier?
I was.
I played the town crier in
my
Cinderella.
God. Look at us. No wonder there's that. And I blew that horn.
I'm sure
and
you
it
did.
was they laughed so hard because the horn you can see is like a little bigger than half of me.
Was that horn 23 years old?
All right, next topic. Here you go.
No,
Has anybody
actually-
ever walked out on your show? Should I be the first?
I think I ended a show early.
Why?
It'll be in my memoir, The Boys.
Oh, it was a man that walked out on you?
It was.
Typical.
Now I remember.
Yeah. Okay.
That was fresh.
Acting was really, you really wanted to do it, and you did a lot of theater growing up.
I did. But then when I went to New York and after NYU, I studied to be an actor.
Yeah.
And I auditioned to get into NYU and did Circle in the Square
Right.
program there. And then I auditioned, actually, it's all in the book, but why are we giving it away? No one's going to buy it now.
Because it's little tidbits.
Tidbits, okay.
Breadcrumbs.
So I went to my first audition, and I was for a page in Washington, D.C. It was an ensemble. And I went in, and my face was literally like shaking. I was so nervous.
Yeah.
And I thought, the people watching me, they must think that there's some aneurysm or something going on. I did get a call back, but I didn't get the part. They didn't make the show. But that made me think, possibly this is not my path for acting. And
But you had spent so many years.
I
on the
know, but
stage
then
and all that.
I slightly pursued it. And even when I came to LA, I got an agent. He happened to be blind, but he still loved the way I looked.
I don't even have to tell a joke to it.
Okay, no, the joke just tells itself. Yeah.
Have I got a part for you?
Yeah.
Have you read it? Nope.
But all of the scripts, all of his notes, I went to a meeting with him. They were all in Braille.
He must have had an amazing assistant then, because it's not like they send out casting notices in
I
Braille,
know,
especially
yeah.
back in the
Yeah.
1800s.
Yeah,
It's
it
like,
was.
"Tick, tick,
Yeah,
tick, tick, tick,
I
tick."
made my writing partner. He wanted to see a scene. And I was like, I'm sure you do. But so we did a scene from Bosom Buddies, and we went in there. We did the scene. Anyway,
That was such a great sitcom, by the way, Bosom Buddies. I remember watching it as a little kid.
I wonder if
not-
it holds up now, as far
I
as
bet it's so politically incorrect.
Yeah, I
even
mean,
the premise.
The premise is
Misogynistic, making fun of the drag community. Yeah, 100%.
I mean, the whole thing. I mean, even like
For the
Tootsie.
time,
I
it
saw
was
Tootsie
charming.
recently, and it's
There's a lot of issues with
yeah,
that.
and it's funny because when back then the movie was considered classic, and now you go. Oh,
And we've talked about, it's really done a lot for LGBTQ representation in terms of, being in a women's
not like putting RuPaul
House
in
of
Brady
Love.
Bunch movie. Now
That's
was
coming up.
all right.
That's coming up. We're not there yet.
That was a good
Stanley.
transition to.
No, I know,
okay,
but we have
okay,
a lot to go
okay.
there. So I want to talk about these New York years because young kid from Detroit, like suburb, it must have been such an exciting time.
But scary,
But-
like a subway. Like
that
I would
adds-
never been on a
But
subway.
like young people are supposed to go through that, and that's what I want to tell a lot of young people that want to get entertainment. It's supposed to be scary because it tests you. It tests you in so many ways.
Well, New York does test you, but luckily I had a really good support group of friends, but most of them were older because where I went Circle in the Square, they're mostly transfer students. So they were like 19, 20, 21. And here I was, not even legal. I was 17 when I went there because my birthday is late in October.
But it was a whole different time that people also don't realize. 17-year-olds were running all around. They were making a life for themselves. Now I think it's much scarier.
Yes, I mean, just, kids in high school today, I mean, they're scared to go to school. Like, are they going to come home at the end of the day?
Right.
I mean, they've had it so tough, and I felt so bad for a lot of these kids that had their graduations in college canceled. They're the same kids that didn't get high school graduations.
Yep.
Yeah.
But talk about those early New York years. What did you learn most about the business that you still remembered to this day that you're like, well, I learned that during those years?
I mean, I learned, I had great acting teachers, and they really taught me about being real. And it was Stanislavski and the method. And I got to go see one of the last classes that Lee Strasberg taught.
I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah, that I was even in a room that he was in.
Uh-huh.
So that was cool. So I use a lot of that in my writing. So my writing is very character-based. And I didn't know that was going to happen, but it really comes from the truthfulness of the character, and not just jokes, but the truthfulness. And that's was what I was learning at NYU as an actor.
Well, and I think when we look at the Golden Girls, especially that first season, it really was about their characters.
The best season, yeah.
Honestly, what shows start off with the pilot being hilarious and people, having that.
Well,
be
Susan
the
Harris
foundation.
created a great pilot with
Right.
wrote great characters, and then when you put those specific actors in those parts, it just became magic.
But the jokes weren't cheap, and they weren't just like setups. They were character based, like you said. Before we get into the girls and the celebs, I want to talk more about your core foundation. Leaving that trifecta, your sister, your grandma, your mom, that must have been scary too. But then you also came into your first kind of like real relationship then too.
Well, first it was just the first sexual experience, and it was totally embarrassing. And again, it's in the book. I made him take me into Washington Square Park and say he loved me before we did anything.
Some things don't change, do they, Stan?
No, it's still. So of course,
that's going to be in the second memoir.
The next morning, he did not love me, but it was a wake up call.
But at that age, and like how sweet that you needed that kind of
because we
foundation.
grow up on romantic comedy movies, and we think that's real life, and it's far from it. But also, I didn't have gay friends really. It wasn't that experience. We were all in the closet back then. So to have openly gay friends say, this is how it is. And it's like, oh, wow, okay. Yeah. And then I was at Studio 54 and then had my first real boyfriend who was very good friends with Andy Warhol. And suddenly I was going to Studio 54 feeling like a total imposter. I mean, here was this guy who was...
But everything went in Studio 54. Like, wasn't everybody
not
accepted?
some gawky Jewish guy with a Jew fro and...
Can we see this fro again, Tony?
Oh, my God. No.
Oh, my
Jesus,
God.
I told you not to put that up
It's like the Jackson 6.
Look how cute I was. What happened? Anyway, I really wanted to play Jesus Christ in Godspell. That was my dream role. But
a hot musical.
But I can't sing, so...
Can you not sing at all?
No, I wish
you
I
can't even
could.
like talk sing like
I guess
Richard
I
Burton?
could do like My Fair Lady thing.
Yeah,
I could do that.
Okay, yeah.
Actually, I would love to play. Okay, here, bring the jokes on. I would love to be Fagin and Oliver.
Oh, I can totally see that.
Yeah, I could do that.
Yep. Well, I don't know if you
Pickpocket
should
or
be
two,
around
yeah.
youth,
Yeah.
but okay.
Okay, there you go. So he would. One day he called and said, "I have Andy Warhol's limo for the night. I'm going to pick you up at the dorm," and took me.
Doesn't that blow your mind right now? Like just talking about what you're talking about.
But at the time, I didn't even really know who Andy Warhol was.
That's probably better. You would have thrown up all over the place.
Probably.
Yeah.
But I knew it was really special to get there because I had gone with, everybody was started going there in college, and I knew a lot of people didn't get in, and so I was lucky to have someone that would bring me in. But he was very East Coast, Park Avenue money, and came from a very well-known name family, and I didn't understand why he liked me. Yeah, so I went to that place. But I'm really glad I had that experience and got to see that side of New York City at that time.
Well, and you have to get the book. You're actually part of Andy Warhol
Lore?
history.
Yes.
Yes, you are. So get the book and you'll find out exactly. But if you're a fan of Andy Warhol, look at some of his stuff. You might see a fro running around.
I went looking because I had some stuff online, seeing if there's that picture of me somewhere.
There has to be somewhere.
There is. He took at Studio 54, yeah.
Yep. So then you made that decision to pack it all up, and it's a really sweet story about how you drove all the way to Los Angeles. Now that in itself, with no real anchor, it's not like you had like, okay, you're going to do the show and you're going to, you're hired.
Well, I didn't drive across country. I met my mom in San Francisco. My brother was living there, and he let me...
Cross country to me is San Francisco to
Yeah,
Los
okay.
Angeles. That's a long drive.
Well,
especially with the parents.
I
Trust
got
me,
rid
I've
of my
done
New
it.
York apartment and flew there. And remember thinking, this is the beginning of a new life. I didn't
How
know.
scary is that, though?
It was very scary.
And how old were you?
21?
And how much money did you have in the bank?
Not very much.
Yeah.
But I had my brother's car. So I met my mom in San Francisco. He lent me his car for the summer. And this was the beginning of June. We drove down. We stopped at a little motel, and Dreamgirls was up for a Tony Award. Wow. And we watched it on this. I have to watch it on this little black and white TV in San Simeon, I think. And it was like coming in and out. I'm like, Mom, I don't care. I don't care if it's fuzzy. We're watching Dreamgirls. And that was the last show I saw in New York before moving. It had just opened, a huge hit, and I could only afford standing room only tickets. And I stood in the back and watched this amazing show with, Jennifer Holliday and Cheryl Lee Ralph, again, full circle, who I ended up getting to know and working with.
And Arnisha Williams, who also...
Arnisha Walker.
Walker,
Yes.
who played all three of them at one point.
In
as
different
well.
companies,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
So then coming down to L.A. and staying at a friend's house who charged me like $100 to rent a room. And I remember bringing the phone out and it had a cord. People probably don't know. Phones had cords at one time.
This is what I love about the book, because I can envision this, and it's just waiting for that phone to ring.
I brought out by the pool, and I'm sitting there, and both of the roommates at the house had work, and they were not there. So I was there alone. I didn't know anybody.
In a whole different state, a whole different side of the country.
Way in like Woodland Hills. Fucking hot. Putting the phone out there, just looking at it. Ring, ring, ring. And of course, it didn't ring.
Yeah.
And then I went back to New York to write another, I think our third or fourth spec pilot with my writing partner, Jim Berg. And oddly, we were there and he said, "Oh, I got tickets for this new show on Broadway that had just opened. It was a big hit off Broadway and just moved to Broadway. And I got tickets, and it was Torch Song Trilogy. And we got to see in the third act of it was this little fantastic woman.
In her big breakout role.
Estelle Getty, yeah. And there she is. That was from my 30th birthday party. She surprised me. I mean, I invited her, but I didn't think she would come. And we had a very special little relationship.
Doesn't that just give you the chills about how many things of your life have come full circle?
I don't know if it's just my life or people's lives or you get old, but there have been so many. And I like when they come around, and it's just like it's almost like the world or whatever you believe in, a God force, just going like, ding, yeah, I got you. Here you go. Okay, you got that. Now you can go on to the next one. And it's really beautiful. It's like, oh, it's almost, I talk about Amy Sherman Palladino, I know, jumping around, that she plants little seeds. I just thought of this now on Gilmore Girls, and I love how she story tells, that maybe my life has been that, like those little seeds planted. And then now like, whew, here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to back up just a little bit. Your relationship with your mom, for your mom to be like, get a job that's going to pay and get a paycheck, whatever. She's like, okay, we're going to take you to LA. You're going to live in LA and live this life. And
They didn't take me to LA.
But you know what I mean? Like,
yes,
like
I had a lot of,
her, and like there was that support.
My grandfather, he was like, be an architect. You're really artistic, and that's a job you can make money at. I'm like, but you've seen me in plays since I was 7. I could do that, but then don't you have to figure out math and stuff? And I was good in math, but I just wanted to do theater, and I wanted to be in entertainment, and I was obsessed with, getting variety sent to my house as a teenager and just studying and knowing every show and what theater they were at and every TV show.
I remember when People Magazine would show up, and it would be like cover to cover.
Oh my God, yeah,
ragged.
Just studied it. But to have a parent that was so supportive, I knew it was special, and I'm just so grateful that that person really believed in me, and it was very different from my father, who I got the sense didn't quite believe, and I don't know if it was just because of being raised as a man and thinking you had to have some kind of security, but he was only willing to pay what money was for University of Michigan, which is a state school. He did not think going to New York was a smart choice. And luckily my mother said, we're going to figure it out. I'm going to work jobs. We're going to get you scholarships. We're going to do whatever we have to do. If this is what you truly want to do, but you got to tell me it is, we'll figure it out. And I did, and we did. And
that's
yeah.
so special.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't have that. My mom worked 3 jobs, so I could do voice lessons, go to private school, take acting lessons, like all of that. There was no question. It's like, but it was that. It's like, if this is what you want to do, we're going to make it happen.
And I know we've connected a lot on that with our moms, in that, a lot of people don't have that. And when you have that support, it pushes you and frees you up to just explore life. And I will always be forever grateful. As there's days that it's terribly sad that she's not here and that she's not able to experience everything that's happened with the book. But so much of the book, people say, I know her because now I know you.
100%. And when we talk about some of your lower career points where you're like, when's the next project, but you still persevere, it's that same energy that no, this is, you said you're going to do it, so you're going to do it, and it's going to work out,
And she always instilled in us from a very young age, if you work hard,
Yeah.
you're going to get there. So it was not even a question of if I would get there. So imagine taking that off the table. And I talk about that. I'm going to name drop it. Swoosie Kurtz taught me that.
I love Swoosie Kurtz.
Love her. Yes. We just did a little email exchange, but she taught me about really, I didn't realize I was doing it until I explained it to her, because she didn't understand like how you do sitcom scripts new every week. And she was used to doing plays. And I said something about, Jim and I take fear off the table. We know we're going to get to a good script at the end of the week. We don't know how. We're going to get to it.
Because it has to.
It has to.
Yeah. There's no other
And I think
choice.
that I
Like
learned
with
from
life.
my mom, just practicality. It was just like, you're going to get there. Don't worry about it. And so many people get stuck in the worrying, and they like the drama of like, oh my God, what if I don't? I know it's horrible. I'm going to, And when you take that off, it frees you to just enjoy the ride. And there's a lot of ups and a lot of downs, but it's like, and I talk about it in the book about almost being on, one of those crazy things in an amusement park, What?
Stanley, it's a carousel or it's a roller coaster?
It's a roller coaster.
Oh my
but they
God,
have,
you couldn't remember a roller
no,
coaster?
but they have other things. I don't know, they're called roller coasters. Well, all those things, Cyclone and shit like that. But you're like scared to death to go on it. But then you ride it and you scream and your hands are up in the air.
Again.
Yes, that's what everyone says. Everybody always wants to sit next to me because they think I make funny noises. When I'm doing.
You're making funny noises right now. I don't know
Okay.
what you had for lunch, but like.
I had a very nice meal, thank you.
That was fresh.
No, but like seriously, and this is what we learn, and you do share some of the low points. And I think it's so important for us all to realize that we all share these kind of moments.
So what was the low point you saw in there?
Like you just feeling defeated because you weren't getting called, you weren't getting projects, and you had this loneliness. And what I have to say, a screenwriter's life is lonely because we think that you're in the thick of it, hanging out with the actors and all that, and you're kind of not. You're working on your material, or having to rewrite overnight, or you're having to work on a spec for free, and there's nobody around you like cheering you on. And even when you do, like Golden Girls, I mean, how amazing we look back, but it's like nobody was there. Like, you did great. You helped you helped make the show popular.
No, they didn't even
It's
give
like,
us
next.
Yeah. They didn't really care about us.
And that's
took
so
us for
lonely.
granted. And every show you work on, no matter how big a hit is or how many years you could be writing on it, I mean, it ends. And then you're back at the employment line and you're looking for a job. And so there is no security. And had I been an architect, maybe there would be.
Yeah, but would you be happy?
No. I mean, I just love the work that I do. And that's why I love getting up every morning and exploring where it's going to go.
And that's why, like, read the book because it'll inspire you. Like, no matter, like, if you have a shit job right now, one of the funniest moments is when they kind of gave you almost a closet for you guys to work in.
Oh, the Brady Bunch movie?
Yeah, and you're like in a closet. But look, we have the Brady Bunch movies.
We didn't care. We were at the Paramount lot.
Yeah.
And we were locked back in the closet. And then Betty Thomas would come in and we would pitch the jokes or we would read her what we had written. And she literally fell on the floor laughing. And we're like, oh my God, we made her laugh. And then she kept going, go more. Don't worry. Just push the limits. And we're like, okay, here we go. And then we could write all that crazy, Jan Marsha rivalry. And it was so fun to do.
That meme, sure, Jan.
Lives forever, yeah.
Thank you.
But when we saw the casting of Christine Taylor and Jennifer Lee Cox, who were so hysterical, and they had, I mean, that's just the characterizations that they created. We just kept saying, all right, just keep writing towards that, right towards that.
Yeah.
So it was really one of the best jobs we had. We were locked into, because we came on as a fifth set of writers, we couldn't change the set. So they would just say, okay, we have locked in this location, but you can change anything in the scene that you want. And we're like, okay. And we just kept pushing. And that's why it's such a crazy movie, but I think it still stands up today.
Oh, 100%. And Jean Smartin is in it, by the way.
Yes, she is. Hacks. She was so wonderful.
This new season of Hacks is the best. It's amazing.
It's hard for me to watch just because I did all that. So as a writer, it's very difficult to watch.
Really?
I had that same thing with The Comeback. I so appreciated it and love the actors. But it's like, it brings out the PTSD of like, Roseanne screaming or a certain actor I won't name throwing a script towards my head. Yeah, that happened. But yeah, they're doing great work, and Gina's so fantastic. But there's a couple lines in the film now where like I don't think we can say. She does a line about a Brady sandwich. She's with the two Brady boys.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah,
yeah.
And we thought that was funny, but I don't know.
The audience was thinking it anyway.
Yeah, that's
right?
true.
We had our Brady
Yeah.
fantasy, especially in that movie. But let's talk a little bit about, because you're responsible for bringing RuPaul in as well.
Yes, that's in the book. How that happened.
That is in the book. But there's this theme early on. We think Golden Girls is this big gay show. You really had to be in the closet. And so you were enjoying the success. You were watching Golden Girls in West Hollywood, and you were seeing the takeoff of this. Then you have to go into this writer atmosphere. And, we think of Golden Girls fondly, and we think, God, it must have been everyone was having fun, and we're all like enjoying
very
this.
Progressive.
But it wasn't that at all.
Mm-mm.
And you were in a room with not friendly, older, white, male guys that you had to hide your life from.
Mm-hmm. There were women there, thank God. I'm Winnie Hervey, who's African American. She was great, and there was another woman there. But yes, Whit Thomas were the producers, the non-writing producers that were there, and they knew the stakes were really high. And as the ratings went up, they even more so. So they sat in the room, and they wanted the best of the best jokes, and we knew that they didn't want us on staff there. So again, it's in the book.
Why?
Because they had a writer that they wanted, and so they had us both write scripts originally, which we didn't know any of this. So we both wrote freelance scripts that they paid us for. Our first draft came in, Blanche and the Younger Man, nominated for Writers Guild Award later, kind of pretty close to what we wrote in the first draft, and hers had to be completely rewritten. So the staff was like, they can write a first draft. Let's bring them on. They're really cool.
And you were these young punks.
I know, but they were like, their choice. So, some men and their egos can kind of
they had to have a whiff that you weren't like the other guys.
Yeah, so whether they
you
knew we were gay or
not. With
not.
them and throwing darts.
No, and so they probably were like, who are those guys? And they don't seem like real men, or I don't know, whatever it was. So their egos were bruised, and so they never took a liking to us. And so to go to work in such fear, although the writing staff was lovely, it still was a lot of fear-based.
Well, and I love this cast photo.
There we go.
Yeah.
Look at me with my little skinny tie.
So cute.
And my mullet. I had...
So are you glad that you left the show?
We didn't leave. We didn't get asked back.
I was being nice, Stan.
Don't be nice.
I was being Stan.
Okay.
And so that's scary in itself. Because
yes, because Susan Harris.
You wrote The Flu. You wrote Sex Education.
Adult
Education. And then...
Blanche and the Younger Man,
and
yes.
some of the funniest lines are from there.
I know. There's people still
If that's
quote
not a
them.
hot water bottle in it, I like to show know what's plugged in. Yeah.
A lot of the lines in what Blanche dog ears.
No, I will not
have a nice day. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's just crazy that they're still being used and talked about. But the last thing we heard, it was at the wrap party, and Susan Harris, who we had not met. I mean, I've been in that picture with her, but
isn't that the weirdest thing? Like the creator of the show, and like you hadn't like really connected.
Because she had Epstein-Barr disease, so she never came to the office. So she was at that picture because back then.
Did you see her sitting off to the sofa like this?
She did not look happy.
Want to
no, but she probably was not feeling well, so she came in because they said you need to have the group picture because it will last forever. And then at the wrap party, I was like, "There's Susan Harris," and I would always be like, "Jim, we have to go talk to her." She's like, "No." Look, I forced talking to her. There she is. So we talked to her, and she says, "Oh my God, you guys are great. We're gonna see you in a couple months." And I'm like, "Yay, we're coming back."
Wait, she said that to you?
To us, and our contract had not been picked up yet.
And so you're like, "Let's go buy things," because you're raking in the bucks.
Well, you're still a lowly writer at
you
that
still
point,
think
but
you have a
regular gig, and it was going to go for
on one of the most
22
successful
episodes.
hits.
Yeah. So, and then all of a sudden, they decided to, because it was the hottest job in town, so they could get anybody they wanted, and they were just like, "No, we're moving on." And the writing, I didn't learn this till later. The writing staff like pleaded with them, "Please, like."
That must
why
have
would
been so
you not?
devastating to somebody your
As Blanche
young
would say,
age.
I was devastated, just devastated.
No, but literally, and you've had some of these experiences where you're working on something that's so great that just doesn't pan out.
And then what do you tell people?
Yeah.
And they're like, "But we saw your work.
Yeah.
It was really good.
Amazing episodes."
So then you become, well, the work was good. Why? And then you go back to,
Hollywood
I just
politics.
connected this like to my mom, like if you work hard, you'll succeed. So here she had taught me that. And I was like, but I did work hard. We did good work. So why were we not succeeding on the show? So you have to
Hollywood politics. There was a whole different era then. And, we think of Golden Girls as this big gay show. It was during the AIDS epidemic. You couldn't even be out as a writer, much less as an actor, as a producer, or, making decisions. And that's a very scary time. And they had to have known. When did you come out professionally? When did you feel it was okay to come out professionally?
A few years after that, we got asked to be in the LA Weekly was a local free kind of cool alternative paper. Huge. Like every Thursday, we're like, get the Weekly. And it had everything in it that you wanted to do if you were cool. And they said we were doing an article about out people in the entertainment business, and we would love to have some writers. And we contacted our representatives, our agent. They're like, no, you can't do that. You can't be out there.
Career kill.
And then Jim and I just said, no, we have to be honest. For some reason, we just said, we're going to do it. And they took our picture on the western part of the Warner lot. And we were in the article, and that kind of how we came out professionally. That must have been scary.
But exciting at the same time.
It was exciting, and then at the same time, then we were, I think, in like Out magazine, and many magazines started covering that story because there hadn't been writers that were willing to put their face out there.
And part of the Golden Girls.
And the Golden Girls, yes. And that story of people were kind of shocked that you had to live your life in the closet on that show.
Okay, we're going to talk about Roseanne next, but before we do, this is something fascinating. I thought I knew industry lingo. So all you entertainment people out there, all of you people writing your web series or your scripts or whatever, can you talk about some of the kind of shit jobs that you have to do as a writer if you're not like on a show? Certain terms like, so you write things on spec, which... Mm-hmm. And I didn't know that this was culture, and it's being talked about more because since the writer's strike, writers that haven't had to do this since the beginning of their career are now having to write scripts on spec. So there's writing stuff on spec, there's punching up a script, there's ghostwriting, and there's other stuff, and a lot of it kind of goes uncredited, which is crazy to me. You could write
like
that
the Brady
one famous
Bunch.
yes.
So because of some stupid old WGA rule, they only credit the first 4 writers, and it was very upsetting to us because so many of the lines were ours.
Well, they had to bring you in to kind of save it.
Well,
you don't bring in the fifth ring of
writers. It was a
it's...
brilliant concept of keeping the Bradys in the past, but in the real world today. I thought that was great, but then I read the script and I thought, but they're not mining the craziness of the Bradys. And like, why are there no bathrooms? All that crazy stuff, or Carol pouring like sugar and sugar and sugar and sugar. That was all our stuff. It's like, just go with it. And so they and Mike's long stories, we kept doing a lot of long stories, so all that crazy stuff was fun. But I didn't understand, and even the producers asked the Writers Guild to give us the credit, and they arbitrated, and they were like, no, they didn't change the structure. They have some stupid rule that if the structure is the same, you don't get credit. And to me, in the old days of Hollywood, they used to have at the end of the movies additional dialogue by. Give us something. Yeah. So the only people that knew that we did
these are the memes that are still going around today. I was forwarded you something. I'm like, guess what?
There it is. My mother knew we wrote it, and the people in this town knew. So we got offered a lot of rewrites on TV shows, going to movies, that kind of stuff, and we got a great career out of it. But we lost a lot of money in residuals because our names weren't on it. And just be fair. We wrote on it. We should just be credited. So I didn't quite understand that. But yes, we did have to, even after all that, we had to write another spec script, and we wrote a Roseanne spec script.
So this is just for people that don't know. Writers are writing free scripts based on shows that they're not staffed for.
Yes, to show that you can write existing characters.
So it'd be like you pick, I want to write for Star Trek, so I'm going to write a whole episode, not getting paid based on the show, and then it just
because you have to reinvent yourself.
Like, but we end up in a trash can.
But we loved Roseanne. We had passed on the original on season 1 of the show, and then when our agent said, "Yeah, you guys should probably reinvent yourself."
Why did you pass?
Because at the time they wanted us to sign like a really long deal, and we were being offered a lot. Like each season, we were being offered like 5 or 6 shows. I mean, it was just
the hot boys.
It was crazy.
Yeah,
from going from nothing to that. Yeah. So that was a little wild. And Laurie Metcalf and John Goodman were not attached yet. We loved Roseanne. I had seen her on Johnny Carson and thought she would make a great TV star. That's another story that's in the book. And then we were also offered to develop our own show, so that when he's writing notes down. Roseanne.
No.
Okay. Buy milk when I get home. So we wrote a Roseanne spec, and we were told, I mean, it was common knowledge, you would never get a job on a show from that spec of that show because there's no way you could know the intricacies of what they were dealing with in development.
And there was a very different sense of humor. I remember when the show came out, it was called the most vulgar TV, show on TV because it was a class that we hadn't seen. It was a language that we hadn't seen on TV. Even
we
though
had seen it with Norman Lear, but not for a long time.
And Norman Lear still did kind of polished stuff. This was like kind of gritty at that time. I remember as a kid all the controversy.
And shockingly, they read the script at Roseanne and they called us in for a meeting, and we're like, oh my God. And we sat there, and they said, we'd love to have you on staff, but we don't pat people on the back here. You know, it's all work.
That's an understatement.
And we were like, it's okay. We don't need to be patted on the back. We just,
excited.
we love the show. We love how the way the stories are told, and we love that it's funny and then dramatic and all. It's like real life. Got the job. Oh, then we had to go meet. We were told we were going to meet Tom and Roseanne. We go to their house. Jim is very spiritual, and he brought these crystals with him. We're like, I said, we need everything we can. We need this job. So he was going to
brought a cheesecake.
He was going to leave a crystal in the house, like just put it in the couch somewhere.
That's
I know.
I don't know
why.
what I have to think about that. That's a little creepy.
Creepy, but kind of fun. So we had a meeting. Roseanne never showed up, but Tom, comes barreling in, and he loves us. And then we go back to the car, and he goes, I forgot to leave it. Like, Jim, you go up to that fence and you throw it over. It's good. I'm not leaving Beverly Hills until that crystal is in there. And we didn't know if there was cameras or whatnot. Obviously, they're cameras. Well, he threw it over the fence. That's insane. And we got the job. And they did not pat us on the back. And it was, again, another staff job that was just fraught with just a lot of difficult times.
Here's it's a shocking fact from your book, and it's 100% true. In fact, you still have the T-shirt. She wouldn't even address you guys by names. It was
number. They thought it was a joke, but they thought it'd be easier to fire you if they could just point to your number on your T-shirt.
So you had to wear these shirts with your number.
No, we didn't. They did the joke in the beginning, and then
trying to build up your book.
And then in the beginning, and
you wore it on CNN. So
what? I did wear it on CNN.
Yep.
I should have wore it tonight. I've only worn it, I think, on CNN, and then I wore it on the strike. We did a Roseanne reunion strike, and Tom Arnold comes up, hugs me, knocks my espresso on the shirt. I'm like, great. But if anybody's going to knock it, it should be Tom Arnold. No, it was just by accident. But that's the second time that we've knocked something. I went to his 5th year sobriety party. That's in the book. And he hugged me. And as I was hugging him, I was holding a glass of Perrier. It was a sobriety party. And the glass of the green glass of the bottle knocks Hugh Grant's front teeth.
What?
He was standing next to me. I don't know why. I just went to hug Tom, and I hear clink. Yeah, that's what I did.
No wonder he's in a bad mood all the time now.
And so I just was like touching Hugh Grant's face, going, I'm sorry. But I'm touching.
Quite right.
So cute. I was just like, he was beautiful. Then? Yeah. Anyway, that was my Hugh Grant story.
Did he sing Oompa Loompa after?
No, I haven't watched that. I think
he's so good in it.
I think that would haunt me.
He's so good in it, but it's a little haunting.
Okay.
That was fresh.
I want to talk about the projects that got away. And we don't understand, for everything that we see, there's so many great projects that never happened. There's a show that you worked on that just never saw the light of day. It was such a great, great premise. Also, you worked on a musical with Priscilla Presley.
Yes.
So much so that you went to Graceland and spent some
time
there.
Yes.
Can you talk about that and what happened in the musical?
It just never saw the light of day, but it was her story. We had to go in and pitch it. And, she was this young girl that went into this crazy life with him. And then, I don't know if people know it, but Graceland was falling in despair. Yeah, it was going to,
100%.
it was a mess. And it was really her, after she was divorced from him, that she went in there and she's like, no, let's turn it into this huge thing. So that became our bookend. We started with this funny, big, brassy Southern tour guide, and then it went back into her story. Yeah, it would have been really good.
That.
And using all of his money, and we spent some time in New York with her, going to Broadway shows, and we went to Graceland with her. We were supposed to go to Graceland with her. It's in the book. And she chickened out at the last minute. It was too intense for her to.
Do you blame her?
We wanted to go upstairs, which the tour is not allowed, but she was going to take us upstairs on a private tour at night. and she just said it would just be too creepy. And she says that she can still sense him and smell him there. I mean, it's a lot to think of that, to go back in that space. But she was so lovely, and I met Lisa Marie at one of Priscilla's birthday parties, and just a really cool lady. And I would still love to see it happen sometime. You never know.
But you've had this opportunity with many females. We go back to this theme about females. We know that Priscilla is very guarded for good reason, for very good reason. But
and
you were able to
Elvis told her, because remember, he brought her to America. Her family was overseas. His father was in the army. And he said, she had to finish high school there. And okay.
Yeah.
So he said, people will like you because you're in my life. So be very careful. So I think that it comes from that.
But you gained her trust, and you gain your trust with a bunch of these people. Let's talk about Gilmore Girls. You were told not to talk to Lauren Graham, and there you are building a relationship with her.
I just saw her, and I went up to her, and I was just very excited, and I had not really watched the show until we got the job, and then for a weekend I watched 4 seasons of it, and I was like,
I was going to say, how do you get that patter down by not having seen the show?
We talk as fast as we have been today.
Coke. House of Love Cocktails, I mean.
House of Love Cocktails, it does.
Doesn't look like I do Coke.
Anyway, so I just was so in awe of her and of her beauty, but her talent, and I mean, just the connection with that role, that I just was like, I have to go running up and talk to her. And she's by her truck like Lorelai smoking a cigarette, and she's like, oh no, you're gonna get fired if you talk to me. And
that's the weirdest thing. Why wouldn't you want your writers to be so connected to the actors?
Some producers are like that. I was not. When we finally got our show, it's like, no, I want the writers and cast and the crew to all, we're a family together. I want people to be happy when they come to work, and I think that's important.
Going back to Golden Girls, I think it's so amazing you wrote such amazing scripts. And it's not like you were sitting there with B. Arthur like, let's talk about Dorothy, whatever. It was not that at all. It was like...
No, I mean, I talked to Stella a little bit, and Rue would talk to us. Yeah. And she was the one that really challenged us to challenge her character. So I always respected that she kind of gave us that life lesson.
Talk about some of the other projects that got away.
I mean, the big one is the Ruthie Ruddock story, and we wrote that on spec after seeing a documentary called Before Stonewall at one of the very first gay and lesbian film festivals in Los Angeles. And in that movie, it talked about how in the summer of '69, the Black movement, the women's movement, and the gay movement all converged. And on the way back to the car, Jim and I just started saying, that's so interesting, we should write a movie about that, and who could intersect the whole world. And we came up with this suburban housewife who goes to Greenwich Village to save her sister from becoming a hippie. We're like, our agents are going to kill us if we write that. No one will buy it. We said, fuck them. We wrote it. There was a huge bidding war. And we decided to get it to Lily Tomlin because I've been obsessed with Lily Tomlin. So we sent it by messenger to her backstage door when she was doing Signs of Intelligent Life. And 2 weeks later, our agent called and said, why is Lily Tomlin on my call sheet? And she had read the script and loved it and wanted to meet with us. And that's how we got to be friends after I had idolized her for so many years. So
flashback to Stan as a little boy. You had like a fake network in your basement where you did your own scheduling, and Lily Tomlin was a huge part of that.
Yeah, I gave her own variety show because I didn't want to wait. She did variety specials like every couple of years. And I was like, no, she needs to be on the air every week. So I gave her Friday nights at 10 o'clock. I think that was a good time slot. And I got to tell her that.
But working on such a project and having this big name anchored, and then it just...
But it was interesting in working with her, and it was during the time she was doing Big Business.
Yeah, which was huge. I mean,
but it was before that. She was filming it, and we would go to set and work with her and talk and do notes. And she, I don't think, really got like the power that she had. You know, we kept saying, "But you're Lily Tomlin." It was after moment by moment. So she had a big moment, and then she had a big failure. And so I think she was like, I didn't really have a voice. And also women back then couldn't really stand up.
And Hollywood still wasn't talking about LGBTQ stories. They just were not.
Yeah. So we kept saying, no, Lily, go to the studio and say, I want it to be this. I want this person in it. And it was interesting because I just thought she was all powerful, but she was just like the rest of us.
Okay. One of your favorite celebrity meetings?
You.
I said celebrity.
I have to say Hillary Clinton. I went to
No.
That's Hillary. No. When she was first running for Senate, and Dan Jinks and Bruce Cohen had a benefit in their backyard, and we were all around the pool, and she talked for like 40 minutes without cards. And I was like, who is this wonderful woman? And then everyone was like going up and waiting in line to get pictures. And I happened to be behind this young guy whose mom was her college roommate. And we started talking.
Wow.
Yeah, it was so coincidental.
That's a story.
And so then, can you imagine the things? And then he introduced me to her, and then I got a picture with her, which I think is in the book too. And I just have been a huge, huge fan of hers. And I just think we really missed out on, having probably one of the smartest people in that office
Don't
ever.
even get me started.
And yeah, that was really crushing.
That was a turning point for our country.
Oh
I
my
think.
God. Yeah.
And the fact that facts are facts, and
no, there's alternate facts.
Okay, worst celebrity meeting. You're like, I don't, even if they've passed or they're still with us. No, I'm good. I don't need to meet that person again.
Worst. Oh my God.
Maybe not worst, but the most
ever
surprising
asked
that
me.
you were surprised that it was such a negative experience.
This is gonna be so controversial. I shouldn't say this,
Of course,
but disappointing.
yeah.
Was recently I got to introduce Laverne Cox, who was in my a music video I directed, and we were at the opening of Night Kite Runner in New York, and I had brought George Takei and Brad to the opening, and I was like, these two gay icons should meet, LGBT yeah. And she was just kind of like, oh, okay. I'm like, but it's George Takei. I guess I just, I always want people to just be.
I mean, talk about a trailblazer.
I wanted them to just like gush over each other, and
Yeah.
she was, maybe she was on her way somewhere else. Again, you don't know what people are going through or
That's
on their
very
agenda.
true.
But it's being very generous. But I was like, no, just it's George. So yeah.
Looking back at your career, what's been one of your biggest achievements, not because it was a big critical success or you made the most money, but that you had to overcome a lot personally to get through it?
Career?
Yeah.
It's just picking yourself up every day and keep
But what
going.
was that one project you're like, I'm so proud of that because I survived and I got through it?
I think probably Rita Rocks.
And that was a labor of love.
It was labor of love. We wrote it on spec again because of our love for American Idol and Roseanne. And so we created a show about a suburban housewife who started a garage band.
Such a fun idea.
It was great. But we did 2 seasons, 44 episodes. Like, who does that? That would be a huge success
Now we have
today.
8 episodes.
And you're winning
that's it.
Emmys. Yeah.
That has to be frustrating to see, by the way.
What? Well, I'm grateful. So it was a very, very difficult situation. We got the pilot picked up, and it felt like when we were making that pilot, if everyone kept saying, it feels like these people have been working together for years. And I was like, that's gold. You don't know how special that is. And Lifetime had never done a sitcom. So they didn't really appreciate what we had accomplished there. And then they got the show picked up, and then we got the calls telling us that. But they said, but they don't want you to be showrunners because you're 2 gay men and you don't really know about a suburban family.
That must have blown your mind. It's like, this is our thing. This is our project.
I grew up in a suburban family, and I don't have kids myself. And I said, but we're going to populate the writing staff with probably mostly women and mothers and parents. So we're going to bring that perspective to it. And it's like, so do you want us to change the pilot? No, do the exact same pilot, but we're going to put people over you to tell you what to do. And that was really hurtful. And a couple of writer friends said, just quit. Just say fuck you and move aside. And I'm really glad I didn't, because I made just some great friends from it and so many wonderful experiences that I learned to keep going and to not walk away. That was our baby. Like, I wouldn't leave that.
But that's a tough call because then people say, know when to say goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
If it's your baby and it's like,
and
you
in
have to
the
make a
end,
statement.
season 2, they did end up giving the show back to us.
Yeah.
But it was just keep going, keep believing, and keep true to what we had created, even though the industry was, I don't think you could get away with that today. There would definitely be a lawsuit. But at the time, people just go, well, that's what they want. If you want to do the show, this is what it is. And it's so small-minded.
Another big theme in the book is talking about lower points. And I don't want to talk about this as a low point because we all experience grief. We just, every one of us has it on some level, whether it's a loss of a pet, a loss of a boyfriend, or the loss of family members. We're all going to experience or have experienced grief. Grief is a big character in the book, and how you talk about it is as a positive. You were very close with Allie Willis. In fact, there's a documentary coming about you were in her fashion show.
And I'm in the documentary.
Yeah. And we know in the industry, I mean, you lived through the AIDS epidemic as well. And then we know, you lost your mom this last year.
Well, 2.5 years ago. But,
Oh my God.
yeah.
In my mind, it's just this last year.
So I didn't know that would be the last chapter of my book. I just figured I'd kind of end up with Gilmore Girls and then maybe a little theater thing. And then my mom passed, and you know all the details of that, and the worst 13 days of my life, from the stroke through hospice to her passing. And then I was like, if I'm being really honest, I have to write about that. And I journaled during all that because I didn't know what else to do but come home from, I couldn't sit in the room with her. It was, even the hospice worker was saying, Stan, you have to leave. You're just too emotional. So I kept writing in my journal, and I put all that in the book, and I'm hoping people can get something of that. I'm still learning about grief so much, and I know you and I have shared this with your mom's passing. It's, sometimes one step forward, one step back, but I wish I had known more about the natural passing of your body in death, and I'm just learning that through, thank God, TikTok and watching doulas talk about how your body shuts down. I just didn't know. So I thought, I'm starving my mother to death, or if she would only just eat, she'll come back to life.
Guilt. And we dealt that with my grandma. They took her off food, and she lasted for 7 days, my grandma, and it was that guilt because you don't know. And even though you end the book with that, it's such a positive, and I want our audience to realize that because you talk about it in a very positive way. Because, people don't know what to say once you say, I've lost my mom, or you've lost somebody so important. People don't know what to say. And a lot of people end up saying something that's just very cliche, but they want to be supportive. So,
Yeah, so you have to kind of like go, okay, that's where they're coming from. But I mean, initially, and I'm sure you might still feel this way, my first thought was, I don't want to live in a world without my mom. To be honest.
Well, and even you and Allie had become such close family
as well.
And
I'd also lost a good friend, Julie Silverman Saxey. So it was like 3 in a row. It was just 3, again, strong women that were my support system. And like, how am I going to, do I want to go on without them? And
it hits you hard. And it is that decision. But like your mom taught you at the very beginning, you go through it and you keep on. And I think,
but you have to too.
No, 100%. I'm doing the damn show.
You are doing the damn show, but your mom was such a light, and you were so lucky. You wanted to share your life with your mom, and your mom wanted to share with you, 100%. And that it was there was never a separation. It was like, these are my friends, this is my world, and she was so accepting. I don't know about you, but the one thing I did learn before my mom's passing was, if there's anything you want to get off your chest or apologize or anything, and I was like, we don't have anything. We don't have any issues. I don't know if you felt that way. It was just love. And I could just give her love and say, and I remember at the very end, I said, I know I'm a writer. I should come up with something better, but go towards the light.
Yeah.
That was all I could come up with. And a couple hours later when I went home, that's what happened.
That was fresh.
And again, it's turning into positive. And some of these cliche things do make sense. Like, she's in a better place, and
but as I say now, because she would always come to my plays or my tapings, but now she has the best seat in the house, and she does follow me everywhere, and someone did a reading for me, and if you ever want that, I can connect you. It's really intense, but
I tried doing tarot last week, and it was too much.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I have someone really wonderful, but she saw her in the moon, and now every time the moon comes out, and it did right before coming here, and I thought, go see Alexander and share some mother love.
Well, it's funny because before I was calling my Lyft to get here, you know how the phone puts together like, oh, here's your portraits from whatever. Mm-hmm. And so for our viewers, my mom used to be here in the studio, and she used to get the drinks for our guests, and she would always give me notes, like literally be like, I have a few notes. Like, she was a tough cookie.
Yeah.
But right before I left my house to get here, it popped up and it was pictures of her here in the studio. So it was like, she was like, I'm here too. Talk about me. Yeah.
Oh, we're talking about her. And we're going to talk about her some more in the next couple of weeks because I know you're doing a beautiful celebration of life that I'm really can't wait to be a part of and celebrate her because she was a really special person. And again, like myself, I know you because of her. And she, as I wrote you in a text, she made a beautiful human being.
Thank you. Thank you. But in this industry, we always have to put on our front face. In fact, I had no clue. You and I were doing a show in Palm Springs, and I didn't realize that your mom was so sick.
She was in the hospital with a stroke. Well, I didn't want to upset you. And something I learned when we were doing an episode of Golden Girls, Blanche and the Younger Man, B. Arthur's mother had passed, and she said, they went to her and said, we should cancel it because you're grieving. And she said, no, the show must go on. I come from the theater. And she did the show, and you can watch in those scenes that she shares. And the whole show is about mothers and daughters. Yeah. And there's a beautiful scene at the kitchen table when Estelle says, you know, you treat me like a human, not like a child. And B can't even look her in the eye and turns away. And whenever that moment happens, literally the hairs on my arm stand up because I know what that was. So when we went to do our out on the Lanai show in Palm Springs, and my mom's in the hospital in Burbank, and they said, we'll know when you get back whether she's going to live or not. I was just like, she would want me to keep going, and I did, and then I told you after, and unfortunately, that's where it went.
So talking about life, and what did her passing how has that changed what you're working on now? How has it changed your writing? It
changed. I was focusing a lot at that time during COVID and teaching a lot. I started teaching.
Because you love to inspire people.
I do.
You're very giving.
But I was doing these sitcom writing classes online on Zoom, and then I would post about it, and then people from all over the world started contacting me. And at one point, I was teaching 4 classes a week. So that's a lot of teaching, and I give it my all, and I'm doing a lot of reading and notes. And then after her passing, I thought, I have to focus on me. I can't keep giving all my energy out to people. So I kind of pulled back on my teaching, which I loved, and even my acting teaching. And then all of a sudden, I started getting all these job opportunities. I was like, someone up there is agenting me. And I think she's the best agent I've ever had.
Probably.
But I kept getting like jobs in different cities and having these adventures because she always said, travel while you can. So all of a sudden, I'm in France in a castle mentoring writers. I'm in New York directing my first big off-Broadway show.
And there was something special about your room in France.
I got to the room, and on the door, they had named each room, and it said Queen Mom, and that's what we used to call my mother.
I mean, if that's not a sign, I don't know what is.
I don't know. So she was definitely watching over me for that. And so now and this show I did in New York was mixing improv and hypnotism together. 2 mediums that I don't know and scare me.
I saw I'm like, what? And it was with Cole Mockery, right?
Colin Mockery. Yeah,
Colin Mockery.
Yeah, from Whose Lines Is It Anyway?
Yeah.
And what a man to learn from.
Yeah.
And so that philosophy of yes and has shaped everything I've done since then. And that's why the craziness of like, I just directed 2 plays back to back. I directed Paul Resnick's The New Century in Palm Springs, and then I went right into High Maintenance at the Road Theater in North Hollywood, and we have 4 more shows from Wednesday to Sunday of this week. And I had less than 24 hours between the 2. I don't know if I'd ever do that again, but I just love actors and being in it. And with High Maintenance, I got to work with a young playwright, stand-up comic, Peter Ritt, out of Chicago. We've been working on the script for 4 months before that. And I didn't know till later in the process that he was actually a big Brady Bunch movie fan. So of course I loved him. So it's been cool to nurture and work with someone very young and talented.
Web series, plays, big screen, small screen. Where do you know where to go, and where do you go from here?
Not writing another book. I think I know you wrote somewhere at first memoir, first book. I think this is it, but you never know if I have something interesting or pithy to say, then possibly. It was really hard work, but I want to direct more theater there's still some, TV shows I'd love to do. The Brady Ladies, Silver Foxes is having its Midwest premiere in Columbus, Ohio, September 6th. I will be there for it. I want to get it to New York. We're talking.
It was in Dallas, directed by Michael Urie.
Yes, the great Michael Urie, sold out, and we're looking to do it as a film. And then, of course, doing right before I go my suicide awareness play all around the country. We just got offered to do it at the Curtis Theater in Brea, which you'll come see.
100%.
A very special one-night showing. And so people in Southern California, May 18th, 2025. So I'm doing that in 2025. I'm doing a Gilmore Girls cruise in January. I'm going to the Fan Fest this October. Golden Fans at Sea, a Golden Girls cruise in March. So my mom just won't stop. If she just would let me relax.
So talking about relaxing and focusing on yourself, you talk in the book about love kind of fleeting you. And we talked about how lonely it is to kind of be a screenwriter and the fact that you are working long hours. You have to be in a certain mindset. Does somebody like Stan Zimmerman have time for love and romance?
That's been the big question. And probably a good therapist would be very helpful to me now.
I called one.
Okay, can you bring it? Oh, there you are. Hello.
No, but you and talking, and I think this is so important for people going through grief. There's no right way to get through it. Mm-hmm. And 100% you should focus on what you need first. You don't have to answer to anybody else of how you grieve or what you need for yourself.
Because it can be anything you make of it. I mean, if you want to just shut down, that's okay too. And it could be a day,
watch Golden Girls 24/7?
That's okay too. Or if you want to go out and see a lot of friends, and it can change literally hourly.
See a lot of friends. There's a wink, wink.
Yeah, but it's whatever you want. But it's important to check in with people that love you and take that in, I think.
So do you think you're more open then to focusing on you and your own relationships since your mom's passed?
I would like to think so.
No.
It still has remained the big question in my life of why can I have all these really cool work experiences, but I have really only had one great long relationship. I mean, maybe two.
Thank you.
Don't start stories. Yes.
But it is funny because every time something good, I still want to text my mom because she would be the first person.
Yeah, and you start to think, I'm having all these experiences that she'll never see. But in a way, I don't know about you, but do you talk to your mom? I talk to her so much.
To her every day, but I've never felt that connection. I've never felt her come visit me.
Really?
And as close as we are, and I've talked about it. We've had a psychic on the show, and there might be a time down the line, but I have felt zero.
I hear it back in her exactly the way she talks. I'm like, really? And just her dry sense of humor, where I think I get it from. I'm like, yeah, she answered me. If I just ask it, it does come back. I would, of course, just love 5 more minutes seeing her face.
Yeah.
And, she had dementia, in the few last years. And so it was hard to see the fading of her. And I felt really selfish that I just wanted her there longer. But she always said she did not want to live a compromised life. So I knew I had to let her go. That was her wish. I mean, the fact that I even got these last few years, I don't think she would have wanted, but
when you're there, it's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, and that she still could come to my plays and meet my friends and have all those. And I knew that when I would see her, her face would light up, and there was, 100%. There's nothing better than to make a mom's face light up, right?
100%.
Yeah.
All right, so High Maintenance is playing in Southern California.
You're coming tomorrow night.
I'm coming tomorrow night.
You better laugh. Yeah.
It's about AI?
Yes, it's a really cool show.
Which is a hot topic in Hollywood.
Of course it is. That's why I thought it was really good to do. So it's about a high-maintenance actress, not that I would know anything about it, from a TV series, and she kind of burned some bridges in Hollywood. So she goes to Chicago to do a production of A Doll's House opposite a robot, a male robot. And it really gets into how do you act, how do you make a robot more human, and how do you... The better you are, the more emotional you are than they do, but then you get pulled into it. I think it has so many connections with just even when we're dating.
Yeah.
So I saw it really like it's kind of a love story, and it's so sweet. And the women that come to the play, I mean, they make audible noises during it, like, and it's really so sweet, and it's really funny, and it deals with theater, but it does bring up the conversation of will AI replace us? I feel ultimately it can never replace the heart, and that's what I bring to my work. I feel it can't replicate my heart. I don't see that happening, and I think that's kind of important to delve into.
No, 100%. But I also think AI has taken leaps and bounds in such a short time. It does make me scared.
Yeah, so it's really funny. So I thought, you know how they have pre-show announcements? I had this idea, said, what if we have AI create a pre-show announcement?
Really funny.
Well, now you won't be surprised tomorrow.
Oh.
So we
I'll act surprised.
we literally say at the beginning, this announcement was written,
I love that.
created by AI. So I love, and you will see AI, the projections are all AI created. I really wanted to figure out where we can get along and where we're fighting it, and you'll see it throughout the production. So it's a really cool play. And
talk about like a moment in like technology history. You know, it's like doing a play about the dawn of the internet. We look back and we're like, oh yeah,
that whole thing.
Where are we going to be in 20 years talking about AI?
You know, and it's so funny because at night I have a habit of going through TikTok. There have been so many TikToks about robots, and they're really, I mean, those crazy things that deliver the food, which those are freaky. But there's very human-like robots now out in the world, and you see them being asked questions and they're answering it. So as much as we think, oh, that's kind of far down the line, I don't know. It could be around the corner.
All right, Stan, we are heading into Pride season. What's your message to your fans this Pride season?
Pride season. Love yourself before you love anybody else. And that's, you know, something I'm still working on. Yeah. And
I don't think that journey ever ends. I don't think we ever get to the point where like,
I'm done. Yeah. I can't love myself anymore.
Yeah.
And all parts of yourself, you know, I love my humor and my outlook, and my mind in a way, but not like myself or my body or my looks.
And this goes way back to your early acting days, like you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we as gay men have so many things that were wrapped up, and I think our younger generation is getting freer and freer, and that's very happy. I'm happy to hear that. But we have a lot of baggage from when we were younger.
And we're judged. And you have to remember also when I grew up, that's why this whole thing with DeSantis and Don't Say Gay and so much work that I'm doing with suicide awareness, that is perpetuating this idea that we're somehow bad and we're not allowed to talk about it. And it's like, I don't want kids to have grown up the way I did and have had to figure out how to be happy or how to have a relationship or just accepting yourself. Like, we should be past that by now. It's just whoever you are, whatever you want to be, whatever you want to name or pronoun or what you want to wear, if it makes you happy, why does anybody fucking care?
Yeah, that's what I don't understand. If it doesn't affect you, what do you care? Why do you care?
Yes, if you're against gay marriage, don't marry a gay person.
Yeah, and stop messaging me on Grindr.
Well, there's that too. Yeah, go to the South. Okay.
Stan, tell everybody where you want them to find and follow you.
ZimmermanStan.com. Please message me if you've... I have to hold the book up?
Yep.
There you go. But also let me know, like, if you've watched Gilmore Girls with your mom or Golden Girls with your grandma. I love hearing stories about that. It means so much. As writers, we don't get to meet people that were affected by our work very often, because we're not a known face like actors are. So I love hearing the stories.
What about Golden Girls? I grew up in Golden Girls and I love Golden Girls. And as a gay man, I've watched the reruns year after year. My mom didn't even watch Golden Girls until she got so sick that she couldn't leave her room. Mm-hmm. And so what's on TV all the time? She was reciting the lines better than me at that point. In fact, she was totally put under her last day, but what was playing in the hospital room was Golden Girls. But she became a bigger fan than me because that was her companion for her last year was Golden Girls 24/7. That was always on. I was like, Mom, even I was like, can we watch
stop, turn it off.
Yeah.
Can we change it to Designing Women?
Stan, as always, thank you for being a friend to the show, and congratulations. Get The Girls from Golden to Gilmore. You can get it wherever books are sold. You can get it on Amazon. It's such a great read, and there are some really great pictures in here as well.
And leave a nice review on Amazon. That'd be nice. Yeah, come on. Yeah. Just so I know.
Yeah. All right, that's it, folks. It's always a grab bag of fun here on The Rocks. A big thank you to our engineer and station owner, Tony Sweet, our social media clip editor, Alexis Mendez. Thank you, House of Love Cocktails. We probably said a lot tonight, and because everybody say love, please like, share, subscribe so we can continue bringing this fabulous programming coming your way for free. Until next time, stay happy, stay healthy, stay sexy, and if you drink, stay tipsy. This has been another episode of On the Rocks. Tweet me and slide into my DMs on Twitter and Instagram at On the Rocks On Air. Find everything On the Rocks for free at ontherocksradioshow.com. Subscribe, like, review, and share. Until next week, stay fabulous.